Clerk, so.
Ready to go? We'll get started. Brevin, you good? Jim, you're good?
Yep.
All right, let's get started. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. Today's event is the grand jury as the sword in the shield, in the fight for liberty. I find it fitting we have this event today, as was announced over the weekend that Kathy Hochul and Lee Zeldin are debating today. And I find this is a fitting competing event to set debate because it shows two alternative points. Point one, in good old-fashioned American ingenuity and American laziness. A lot of people believe they're looking for heroes, they're looking for role models, they're looking for a politician to come save their life, whether it's Bernie Sanders, Donald Trump, Barack Obama, Kamala Harris, Joe Biden. They're looking for a role model, they're looking for a hero to save their problems. The Republican Party and Democratic Party will both promise you security. Democrats will promise you financial security, provide you health care, provide you a stipend, provide you whatever you need financially. The Republicans will promise you security from terrorism, security from immigrants. Well, what if we did something different? Because for the last 50 years we've been voting harder and we've gotten nothing the politicians have provided us. The political class has gotten quite wealthy. You can see that there's a lot of people in Congress worth millions of dollars on a $200,000 a year salary. Americans' net worth has grown minusculely. But politicians, just including recently, their stock portfolios are performing very well, while your pensions and your portfolios are down 25% on the year. Elections are great for the political class and the politicians. And coming out of COVID, where they shut down businesses and 47% of small businesses shut down and didn't reopen during COVID. But the political class and politicians never missed a paycheck. So, we can keep paying our taxes and vote harder to make sure that the hungry mouths of the Pelosi's and the McConnell's mouths get fed, or we can try something different. We can stop asking politicians and professional grifters to be our hero and to solve our problems, and we can do it ourselves. And that's what this event's about. It's about not relying on a criminal class that shuts down our businesses, takes our tax dollars to pad their pensions, sends our friends and children to die overseas, and then forgets about them when they come home. It's about taking the power back from a ruling class that doesn't care about us. And so I'm excited to be here. I'm excited you guys are here to hear something different for a change, to hear something that's empowering, that's not vote harder, rely on a politician, give your money to a politician so he can have nicer things, give resources and time to a political class that does not care, that supports a phony jobs program. It's about empowering yourself to take the power back. And so this event today is sponsored by Jim Ostrowski and LibertyMovement.org, the Erie County Libertarian Party and the Greater Libertarian Party of New York as a whole, and Dave Mangiela with Wake Up New York. And this event is about empowering the individual, relying on ourselves to do what's right. So I have the honor to introduce our first speaker, who is David Mangiela. Dave, come on up and do your thing.
Sorry, turn the lights down. Now we're gonna lose some more heat.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to start out with this this jury notice I received in the mail. So, Narrow County sent me one of these in 2012, said I had to fill it out. It asked some interesting questions like, am I a U.S. citizen, which I thought was kind of odd because U.S. citizen is legally defined as someone that lives in the District of Columbia. I'm like a New York State citizen, so I don't understand that. But, so I kind of ignored it, and they kept on sending them to me. And then they said, notice of delinquency. Like, I'm gonna get charged for something for not filling out my jury questionnaire. And then there was another one after this, saying I was gonna face some type of, charges. So I was, at this point, I was already studying the jury and the grand jury process for a couple years. I'm like, I'm gonna ask some questions after I fill this out my own way. So I asked, I says, is this went to Krista Pazzo, the Niagara County Commissioner of Jurors. I talked about some case law. And is your grand jury the same as the one mentioned in the Bill of Rights? Okay, right? So it's, legitimate question. We're talking about the Bill of Rights here, right? Does it use constitutional common law? Number 2. Does your grand jury investigate complaints like the Niagara County grand jury did in 1858 when they investigated the living conditions of the Niagara County jail? Are your jurors taught constitutional common law? Question mark. Does your jury rule on only statutes? Do you accept presentments from the grand jury, which is a very interesting term? Can your county court accept grand jury filings? Is your grand jury a buffer between the people and the government? Can your grand jury investigate merely on a suspicion? Can we, the people, start our own grand juries? Does your grand jury operate independently of the district attorney and the prosecuting attorney's office? Send me correspondence in 15 days. We, the people, need to know this immediately if this jury can enforce the Constitution. So I got a letter. In regards to your recent correspondence with my office, this came from Rebecca Whitus. She actually was the Commissioner of Jurors. We've been advised to excuse the juror qualification questionnaire delinquency notice that was sent to you. No further notices will be sent to you at this time. We apologize, however, I'm not authorized to provide legal advice in response to your additional inquiry. So I was excused from jury duty, which I didn't want to be. I just wanted to know what my power was as a juror. And it's quite interesting what they do. I run Mangello's up in the corner up there, Robinson and Transit Road. I was a guy prosecuted for, putting fundraisers on my sign, sent it to jail and all that good stuff. If you can if you didn't already get a text this number right here. I can show it to you later if you want, but if you enter this number and then text WakeUpNY just together with no spaces, it'll ask you a question if you want to be joined the text stream, yes or no, and then you'll get our reminders on what we have coming up in the future regards to meetings and so on and so forth, what's going on. I'll show you the number later. So everybody's seen the red pill, blue pill thing. If you're a blue piller, of course, you don't want to listen to what we have to say because we're going to take you down the different things. So what's going on here? And I thought about this the other day. What is a slave? They can't travel without permission, so you need a passport or license. You can't get married without permission, so you need to get a marriage license. So a slave needs permission to get married. You can't own your property either when you're a slave. So they rent property to you, they call it taxes, and if you read your deed, they just call you a tenant. So you really don't, slaves can't own property either. You can't keep what you earn totally, so you gotta pay that back to your master. And a slave cannot be judged by other slaves in a court. So you don't get a jury if you're a slave. So in New York State and federal procedures, a lot of charges you cannot get a jury. Traffic charges you can't get a jury. They'll pull you into a court. You can't get a jury unless it's a felony, Jen?
It kind of depends. In injunction cases, you can't get a jury.
Yeah.
For example.
Yeah, but when you're charged from the government, unless you're charged more serious with a crime, you can get a jury. But anything, they can still throw you in jail without a jury, which is disturbing because I found out in some case law that due process was defined from the Magna Carta as judgment by your peers, which is a jury. But the government doesn't want you to be judged by a jury because I like poking the bear a little bit, especially when it comes to legal things, and I kind of annoy Jim here because he's my attorney a lot of times. You can't say this shit, Dan. So I just said shit. Simeon was a guy who was facing a gun charge in Niagara County. He was an Army vet, Army Ranger. He was involved in a lot of special missions that were over in Afghanistan. Simeon came back to country, lived in the Niagara Falls area, has a disabled son. He gets pulled over on the 4-lane highway over by the river, where it's 30 miles an hour. He gets pulled over doing 45, in the afternoon, he gets questioned by an officer, where were you? I was having a celebration, I got a new job. And the officer said, well, did you have any drinks? Well, I had one drink. I think he said one drink, right? Remember? I remember. So come out, do a sobriety check. So ran through like 20 minutes of checkpoint, do this, do that. And the last one of the last checks, he says, can you make sure your body camera's on? He said something to that extent. Where he refused to do the next check unless the body camera was on. So then that was constituted a grounds for an arrest because refusing the sobriety. So they arrested him. They searched his vehicle. Of course, he passed the test with flying colors. Everything was good. His girlfriend witnessed everything. She was another car behind him. They search his vehicle. They do an inventory check because they want to make sure that things don't missing on your vehicle after it gets towed. So it's kind of illegal to search a vehicle without a warrant, but then again, they found out this inventory check is a way to do it. So somehow they got into a lock safe that was in a center console and found 2 Glock magazines, just the magazines. No guns, no nothing. Magazine is, goes in the pistol. And I don't know, it's the Glock, the 9mm holds, I think 17 rounds, I think it is. And so both mags were loaded to capacity. Well, that's in violation of the SAFE Act. So now they arrest him with a felony. So they indicted Simeon, the grand jury indicted him, because Simeon didn't even know the power of the grand jury. I don't think he even confronted the grand jury to begin with. But the grand jury could have said at that time that we're not going to charge you with this because the law is wrong, so you're not going to be charged. The grand jury could have done that, but the grand jury didn't know that. And I don't think he even had you for an attorney yet at the point. So Simeon was indicted. Well, being he was a vet, Niagara and Erie County have a program called Vet Court. You get to go through this system because a lot of vets suffer from being in service, so they make some mistakes when they get back. So they created this Vet Court system. So if you behave yourself after a year, they drop all the charges against you. So everything would be expunged, gone, done, over with. But you have a year of dealing with you have to get a mentor that's a vet, and they just deal with you through the whole event. But Simeon's fought for our rights. He fought to protect rights that he thought he had here. So what he said, no, I didn't do nothing wrong. I didn't do nothing here wrong at all. So at that point, I think he retained Jim and went to a jury trial. They had, I think, 3 gun owners on the jury. And it was a, 2-day, 3-day trial, I think it was. And I'm in the audience, and I knew about jury nullification. Who knows about jury nullification? Very few people. Okay. What were you going to say, Jim?
No.
Nothing? Okay. So, jury nullification means that a trial juror, there was 3 elements that Simeon, to be charged with that felony, I think it was 3 elements had to be made. Remember what the elements were? In possession of? In possession of the magazine. Was it a working magazine? Whatever these 3 elements were. Did you know it was illegal? Now, how the legal system works in a felony type court, or really a lot of it, there's elements to the charge. So if one of the elements were missing, the jury had to find them not guilty. But if all the elements are there, the jury can find them guilty. Okay, but the word between can and must or may find him guilty, they don't know that. But during the trial, there was a recess, so I had these fully informed jury association pamphlets I got from FIJA. It's a group out of California. So I asked the prosecuting attorney, how would you feel if the jury ended up with these pamphlets? She said, oh, that's jury tampering, and she stomped off in the wilderness down the corridor. So what jury nullification means that regardless if that person was admitted guilty to violating that law, the jury can still say not guilty if they felt in their heart the law was wrong. That's jury nullification, which is very, very significant. And it's the main reasons we're here, because we have to teach this. We have to devise a method to teach nullification. Regardless what bureaucrat writes, whatever statute, code, or rule, it doesn't mean anything, because the jury was put there 800 years ago from the Magna Carta and put on our Bill of Rights to protect our rights. So if we don't understand that process, how it's supposed to work, we lost. We're losing. We're continually losing. But through the years of fighting, so I've learned this stuff. So after recess, I'm sitting in the audience. Jim's up in front with Simeon, and Judge Murphy calls my name, and I'm in the Mr. Mangello. I'm like, oh Jesus, like Jim's now thinking like, geez, I'm gonna have to defend another client here. He's thinking, right? He goes, Mr. Mangello, there's something you wanted to give to the jury, he says. I said, well, Your Honor, I was wondering how you felt if the jury ended up with it, or how the prosecuting attorney would feel. He goes, well, I studied this subject, and it's what I'm gonna instruct you to, what you can and can't do. He goes, you can't give it to the jury in the courthouse, but if you give it to them in the parking lot, it's okay. Because there was case law, I think in 2016, that actually did that. They arrested a guy for jury tampering, and the Supreme Court decided that you can educate the jurors right in the parking lot. So why can't we do that with the grand jury and the trial jury? Just an idea. But I want to talk to Judge Murphy again, because he recently retired last year, and he just passed away, not even 2-3 weeks ago. It's sad, very sad. My opinion is voting fixes everything, and voting protects our freedoms, and voting lowers your taxes, and it just helps us with everything, right? So why should we bother doing anything else? Because voting works, right? it's what? So after digging, I found the Niagara County Jail history. It was on the website. And it talked about the history of the jail, and all the way back to 1800s. And when I did grand jury searches in Niagara County, that was the first thing that showed up. So in 1880, somebody drafted a complaint, sent it to the Niagara County Jail, or the Niagara County Grand Jury Foreman in the 1880s, because they were concerned about the living conditions of the Niagara County Jail. The grand jury investigated the living conditions. They then wrote a report, sent it to the county government, and the county government had to fix the problems. How come the grand jury doesn't do that now? There's a conversation I had with Judge Murphy on the radio, I called him, because people call me, hey Dave, the judge is on the radio. So I call the judge, ask him questions. And I said, well, if we want to get a complaint to the jury, how do we do it? He goes, well, just send it certified mail to the grand jury foreman. I said, have you ever seen that? He goes, well, my 30 years of practicing law, I've never seen it ever happen. Because we don't know. They don't teach us this. We don't know. So I did it. And the county DA sent me a letter back, Jim's friend. Plays basketball, her son's friends are there, but she sent me a letter, Carolyn Watazik, and said that, now she's the judge, saying that's not how it's done, Dave. And lost my screen here. Did I kick something? Sure did. So, talking to Judge Murphy, fried my bulb. These things are sensitive. And then he basically verified, yeah, at one point in the 80s, there was a mother that killed her child. So the grand jury felt it necessary to investigate the Niagara County Social Services. So they did. They actually investigated social services and researched to find out if anybody there knew of her mental condition that could have protected the child. And I don't know if you guys got any experience with social services and family court system. It is beyond corrupt, and that's a system that needs to be fixed, because they forced me and my sisters to live in some of the most deplorable conditions you can possibly imagine. It was absolutely terrible. Even though my dad spent today's dollars probably $250,000 to protect his kids, and couldn't do it because they would give my mom like 2 weeks notice to clean the house, because the house was just so filthy. My mom would call my grandmother, she would give her thousands of dollars, pay professional cleaners come in the house and clean the house. and then went back right a month later. We would go to school, with fleas on us, smelling like cat urine. It was just some of the most disgusting conditions we were forced to live in because of the family court system. It's just very, very upsetting, and that's kind of the motivating factor behind me getting involved with a lot of this stuff, because I really feel that we're here. Yeah, my lamp just fried. For everyone else. So I found a lot of court cases, especially there was a case by Antonin Scalia called U.S. versus Williams. And Antonin Scalia goes on to say that the grand jury is solely in the hands of the people, serving as a buffer between the people and the government. The grand jury can investigate merely on a suspicion that a law is being violated. Suspicion. So the grand jury has a lot of power. And in downstate New York, in the early 1900s, a group of citizens started a grand jury association in New York County. Erie County's grand jury association was started in 1940. Niagara County, someone I found is still registered as a corporation, was started in 1960. But nobody's doing this anymore because they don't know they're supposed to be doing it. Because your purpose as a human being is to educate other human beings. And when you have government educating us and government moving us down this path of what they want us to learn, they're not going to tell you the fix. They're not going to tell you that this is the way you keep it all accountable. We don't live in a democracy or rule by majority. We live in a republic, which is rule by law, rule by law. So, for example, I feel the best example of a republic is a trial jury, because you need all the jurors to find you guilty. If one juror says not guilty, that's it. And all that juror has to know is jury nullification. So realistically, statute, codes, and rules, everything these bureaucrats write, don't mean anything. Because the grand jury can say no. The trial jury can say not guilty. So it's two buffers from the Magna Carta that they put in our Bill of Rights. And the Bill of Rights in the Fifth Amendment, it's called a presentment. So if you ever look at it, I had it up here, it says the Fifth Amendment, in order to be charged with a crime, it's either presentment or an indictment by a grand jury. Now I talked to our recent county attorney here, I think it's Brian Seaman. He was on the radio. I asked him, I said, what does presentment mean? So he goes, oh, that's when we present evidence to the grand jury. I says, no. I says, you got to be charged with a crime with a presentment or an indictment. So the presentment has the same power as an indictment. So here, our own county district attorney doesn't know what a presentment is. So I found a Yale law review back in 1992. So what the federal government did with federal statutes, and Judge Murphy, that conversation I had on the phone, you can listen on my YouTube channel under Dave Mangello, that it's all on there. He says that he feels that the state grand jury, the county grand jury, has no more power than the federal grand jury. He said that. He also said that, well, the state really doesn't want the people to know about nullification either. So when you look at all the important things of what we need to know and what we need to educate people with, we need to start grand jury associations, without a doubt. We need to get a group of everyday people together and maybe find out when the grand jury is impaneled in a county and stand outside, set up a table. Here's your information as a grand juror, so understand you have the ability to fix these things. And here's the things that need to be fixed. What's going on with the vaccine? Why did they hide ivermectin? Was the shutdown really necessary? All these key questions. Are these gun controls too much? Laws too much? So it's our ability, it's our right to do this. And they can't say no. Because what law is the jury using when they say no and not guilty? What law are they using when they make a decision that isn't written down? They're judging with their heart. Because it says in the Declaration of Independence, we're living in a country of laws of nature and nature's God. And the common law is actually defined in the American jurisprudence. I went to the UB Law Library and got the definition. It says it's natural reason. It's law that's inspired by natural reason. It's not written down. So regardless what laws, what rules you're living under, we have a right to judge with our heart what is good and what is bad. And that's the most important aspect of this. You know, what is good and what is evil. They want you, I asked the guy the other day, it's like, is it evil? Should I go to jail for not paying my property taxes? Well, yeah. I said, is that evil? Well, yeah. I said, is driving my car evil without a license, without an inspection? He goes, well, yeah, that's evil. This is the impression. These are the people, because the state will write things in an illusion of safety. They want to give you, hey, if you pass these gun laws, you're going to be safer. And that's it. That's how everything is driven from, is safety. Like the window tint laws, you know, car inspection regulations. It's a joke. You know, the car inspection does not make your car safe at all. You know, it just makes the state money, millions of dollars. It's a joke. But I think Jim's going to be next here. Did I go over my time?
No, you're fine. You're good.
Okay, we're good. But we'll let Jim speak now. And if you guys got any questions, we're going to talk some later if you got any questions. Here we go, Jim Ostrowski, Liberty Movement. One of the few attorneys that will step up to the plate and go against the system.
Can you turn the lights on so the people can see how handsome I am?
It's
You're gonna get that laptop.
$5.
You're gonna clear all this stuff out of here.